Welcome to episode 20 of the Whatnauts Reactor Core. This is a show where we talk about hot new pieces of entertainment, blockbuster films, streaming shows you can watch all in one wild weekend.
Exactly. All sorts of spoiler cast worthy stuff.
We spoil the things. Yes, Kyle insists on the word spoiler cast. That is Kyle Springer, and I am Melissa Wilkinson. Welcome to the program.
Hello, hello. Melissa.
Yes.
How has your week been? We're recording this on a Tuesday night.
It's been okay. Work isn't crazy. I've worked
so far
only slightly more than 8 hours every day. Some days I work 10.
Ooh.
Not so far this week.
Ooh, man. I am back at work. It's I took some time off this past week, so it's a full week of work, but it's been slow. I am cruising through season 3 of Lucifer.
Wow.
So I've been enjoying myself recently.
Chugging along.
Indeed. Also, it's the first time that I've had caffeine in about a month or so. So I'm here with a bottle of Coca-Cola. Yeah, for this, just for you, Melissa. So I'll be on my best behavior.
How big is this bottle of Coke? Is this a conventional size, or is this like the Polly Pocket size?
It's a conventional size, like a 20-ounce thing.
All right. Is this
Panda
the one
Express.
that has your name on the side?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not supposed to share this with anyone.
For your mouth only.
Yeah. Exactly. What are we here to talk about this week?
We are here to talk about season 2 of The Umbrella Academy, the Netflix original superhero family dramedy, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
We covered season 1 of this on the review show on episode 50.
That is
that
correct. Yeah. We're kind of in a unique position to cover season 2. It wasn't even something I was really thinking about, and then you were like, hey, do you want to do a Reactor Core on season 2? And I was like, guess we have already covered season 1. Interesting. Let's do it. Yeah. That sounds good.
Frankly, I don't think there's any force out there to stop us for only covering a later season of a thing both of us already have watched. If we're going to talk about it anyway, why not press that record button?
Exactly. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for some more Umbrella Academy coverage, we did cover season 1, as Melissa just said. I do want to bring something to people's attention. If you went back and listened to that and you are now here on our season 2 coverage, Melissa, I think our coverage of season 1 is the episode that I made myself look like a complete idiot.
Right, yeah.
On the show, like the biggest just dumbass, where I had said, I like that guy Klaus. His actor really reminds me of the actor from the show Misfits. They just look similar, they act similar, all of that stuff. And I didn't put it together that they were the exact same actor. And I figured that out like that next week. And I think someone eventually commented on our YouTube our YouTube video and was like, "'Cause they're the same person, you dumbass." I was like, I know, I did this to myself. So there, bit of a correction.
Okay. Thank you for informing the people.
Exactly. Well, yeah, so let's do kind of what we typically do here on the show. We'll do our general thoughts and stuff, and then once we get into spoilers, we can do our kind of recap-ish. I have some notes. I don't have all of them. I didn't have enough time to get that stuff, but we'll use our notes our like recap notes as jumping off points for a more spoiler-filled discussion.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down.
That's all good. I came prepared. So yeah, I guess general synopsis of season 2 is that this picks off right where season 1 left off. They are time traveling away from one apocalypse, and they have landed right in the midst of another. And they then get sent back in time, or at least 5 does, and he has 10 days to stop this new apocalypse. But this is all also happening in 1963, right before the JFK assassination.
Yeah, that vortex at the end of season 1 dropped him into a time hole, and they all fell into Dallas in the early 1960s. Not all of them arrived at the same time. So they're all, now it is 1963, all of them are there, but they don't know that the others are also out there somewhere in the city.
Exactly. Yeah, they're all kind of scattered. And basically they have to get the band back together and stop the apocalypse. That is what season 2 is about. Yeah, I there's not really much more I think I would add to that in terms of a synopsis, unless you have something else that you might want to throw in there.
We meet a lot of cool new characters this season.
Indeed.
I like how they expanded the cast. I'll tell you that much.
Indeed, I think one of the weirdest characters is there's a guy with a fishbowl for a head, and there's a fish in there, like a talking fish, kind of.
Was he in season 1?
He may have been mentioned, or we saw him briefly. I don't remember him from season 1. But yeah, some good new characters. They are setting up things for season 3, so I will say that they're this is not the end of the show. It will keep going after this. I'm assuming. I don't think I've heard if they got greenlit for season 3, but they sure did set things up.
It would be awful if it just stopped here.
I mean, hey, with the way Netflix does the things, you never know. You never know. But yeah, general thoughts. What did you think?
I liked it. I think the mood of this show improved a lot from season 1.
I agree.
Season 1 is, I mean, the kicker of the whole thing, the starting point is that their dad has died. So the entire family reconvenes for a funeral. And they're all estranged. They haven't seen each other in forever. It's a very angsty season. And because they've already been through all of that when we pick everybody up here in season 2, and because they were separated at the beginning and they all have to find each other after believing they're alone in early 1960s Dallas, the bond between all the siblings is much stronger in this season.
Yeah.
And the whole show feels warmer. Like, it's got its dark points, and I'd say the individual dark points are more brutal than what we saw in season 1, but the highs are also so much higher.
Yes, indeed. I enjoyed this a lot as well. I think my problem with season 1, the main thing, I went back and listened to our own podcast just to be like, what did I think? And my main problem with season 1 was the pacing, and I kind of remember that, how it felt like it was kind of stop and go. It would ramp up and things would be revealed really fast, and then it would stop and it would almost not move and do anything for a bit. And it was just that back and forth and back and forth. So I felt like there was a little bit of whiplash in season 1. I think that was, for the most part, resolved. I think the pacing is much improved in season 2. It never really slows down. I think the strength of season 2 is the characters.
Yeah,
they're just like, by this point, we're just so in love with them. Just spending time with them is great, no matter what they're up to. So it's a delight to watch. But I think my problem with season 2 is also, in a strange way, the pacing of this. I like everything that happened, though I felt nothing of importance really happened until episode 8 and beyond. It was not, because, and see, that's the thing, I don't want to say it was slower, because it was not slow, right? But it was just like, nothing is working, nothing is happening, nothing is blah, 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 and then it all kind of finally comes together at the end, which is, I guess, typical of the Umbrella Academy from what we know.
Yeah.
So it works, but I think it kind of left me being like, okay, when is something kind of real important gonna happen here? And then it finally did. So I was like, okay, good. Here we go.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there's certain checkpoints. There's certain things they are trying to accomplish throughout the beginning of the season that seem like they don't have much payoff. It's like they're trying to get somewhere, and either they don't get there and it doesn't feel like they've lost that much, or they do get there and the story doesn't feel much different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But like I said, the characters are just so fantastic that it's just like, I don't care. Like, this could have been a 20 episode season, and nothing could have happened for the first 17, and I would have been like, this is great. I love this.
Yeah, and I think the show has learned to find a lot of joy in its characters struggling to do things, not in a mean-spirited way, like you're watching them fail, but just like it's letting itself have these scenes of the characters trying to solve a problem and kind of bumbling their way through it. Like, for example, there's a scene where somebody has written a sinister message to the Academy in a foreign language, and they don't recognize it. It's Luther and Diego, and they don't recognize that it's in another language. They think it's a name they don't know, but they look it up in the phone book and they find somebody with that name.
Just like one letter off, and they're like, oh, it must be her.
Yeah. This person must be a clue. This must be a calling card of whoever's taunting us. So they call this lady up. Diego's like, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna hunt you. I'm going to kill you. And then 5 comes in and he's like, guys, that's Swedish for eye for an eye. Somebody's coming after us because we went after them. And they're like, okay, sorry to bother you, ma'am.
Yeah, it's wonderful. They're just complete idiots.
Yes,
and it works out to the audience's delight. I think the main antagonist of this entire show is the fact that they are such a dysfunctional family.
Right.
So, yeah, good stuff. Highly recommend season 2 if you have not checked it out yet. But that said, I think that should do it. Let's get into some housekeeping, and then we will dive right into spoilers and start breaking everything down. So if you did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at The Whatnots. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnots.com, or your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in The Whatnots, and all of our shows will pop up right there. Melissa, speaking of the Reactor Core, the show that we're here on right now, we have been putting up a series of Patreon exclusive Reactor Core shows in which you and I are reacting to movie trailers from different decades. And I believe our third one just came out. It's on our website for Patreon supporters at the $3 tier. So if you like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnots is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. But like I said, you can get all of that exclusive content at the $3 tier. Those Reactor Core ones were a lot of fun.
Yeah. We talk about a lot of different things. Everything from Inception to Little Nicky.
God, I keep forgetting about Little Nicky, and then we keep mentioning him. on all of our shows.
It is notable how forgettable it is.
It is. So that is a lot of fun. We highly recommend you guys going to check that out if you have not yet. And last but not least, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at our $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out, for helping us keep the mics on. We appreciate the support so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that wraps us up for housekeeping. So in post-production, I will put on our spoiler graphic. Go. Okay. I think that should do it. That gives us enough time. Spoilers. Okay, spoiler territory. Melissa, this was so much fun. This was a good.
This was a lot
TV.
of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking back on it, and I'm just like, yeah, I enjoyed this so much. This is a lot.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
In comparison, it makes season 1 look really dreary.
It does,
and I think it has to do with the places the characters are at in their journeys. Like this version, season 2 of Vanya, even though she's dealing with. She's lost her memory. She's been in this accident. She's trying to figure out who she is. She falls in love with this farm wife. She wants to leave and love this farm wife.
Live, laugh,
it's
love.
Still got
right.
It's still got sad elements to it, but it feels better than just the downtroddenness of season 1 Vanya, where she's just in like a haze of medication and that manipulative boyfriend she has.
It really feels like they found their formula of just like, by golly, we've got it. Here it is. This is what we do.
They tightened up a lot of the characters. Like I remember one thing that kind of bugged me about season 1 was that I like Diego well enough, but he felt too normal compared to the rest of the cast.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense. Well, I mean, he had his almost Daredevil Batman-like persona, but yeah, he was kind of the one that didn't really have problems per se. I mean,
I suppose he did, but like the problems just felt like more of a typical like you said, superhero vigilante crime drama kind of show. Like he felt like he was coming from a different program and then got added into this show. But like he's quirkier this season. He vibes with the rest of the family. I love his hair. I agree with Klaus. I love the moment where they think they're going to die and Klaus is like, Diego, I have something to tell you. With the long hair, you look like Antonio Banderas. I just needed you to know that.
Good stuff.
And Luther, I think they brightened up too. Like Luther's kind of he's maybe the most brooding out of season 1. Yeah, like they traded out Mopey for Dopey. Like him and Diego and a lot of the characters, basically everybody but 5 is like kind of a buffoon to varying levels. Even the ones that are like normal person smart, like Allison, still don't know how to deal with all of these sci-fi problems. It's like it learns to have a lot of fun with their shortcomings and sort of improve everybody's attitudes.
Indeed. Well, let's see. Let's start digging into the plot here. Kind of mentioned where it picks up right where season 1 left off. We see like a very, very brief montage. They jump in that portal right as the apocalypse is happening. But unfortunately, this scatters the Umbrella Academy across a couple years from 1960 to 1963 in Dallas. And 5 arrives on November 25th, 1963, right as a brand new apocalypse is happening. But suddenly Hazel shows up. He's a character from season 1, if you don't remember. And he's all like, come with me if you want to live. Not in that accent, but
I have an apocalypse beard now. I'm here to give you some exposition, and then I will die.
So he ends up saving 5 and being like, hey, you're the one who can fix this. They go back in time 10 days and then slip something into 5's pocket and sends him into one more portal, right as these 3 blonde-haired men with guns show up and turn Hazel into Swiss cheese. What did you think of that, like, opening scene with the, like, out of the frying pan into the fire whole thing there?
I think the show approached it well. Like, it doesn't feel like the show knows we're repeating ourselves. The characters are like, oh, we have to do an apocalypse again. Like, it's not a cheap move. It feels like it's part of this grand joke they're playing on the characters, that it's just a never-ending cycle of, like, apocalypses, and we're going to shove you into a different timeline where you think you can solve it. Nope, there's a different apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. I liked it a lot because it starts out with a bang, right? Like, it starts out with this high energy, like, oh, look at us, we're all badasses. Here's Vanya using her powers. Here's Diego doing some, like, spinning kickflip thing, you know.
Allison's wearing a cape, like a capelet.
Ben is there with his hentai tentacles and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's just, it's a great scene. It's just like, yes, this is their Avengers moment, right, where they all leap on screen at the same time, and then it's like, okay, let's stop that. We don't want that to happen. So now 5 is in Dallas in 1963. He is looking for all of his siblings. They are all scattered. We know Diego is in a mental asylum. Vanya is on a farm living a quiet life. She has no memories of who she was from about a month ago. Klaus and Ben have been road tripping all around the world, and they have started a cult. Allison seems to be doing well. She's married to someone named Raymond Chestnut, and they are organizing civil rights protests. And Luther finds himself as hired muscle for Jack Ruby. So we know things are gonna get mixed up with the JFK assassination. Just with that, we also know the handler, who we saw die in season 1, is not actually dead. Apparently, she had a metal plate in her head, and that stopped her from dying. So she is alive again. She wakes up, I guess, from her coma to find that she has been demoted within the commission. She is no longer the handler, in air quotes. She still has that nickname just because that's what we know her as, but that's not really her position anymore. And she does not like that. And that's when we meet AJ, this new, like, fish tanked dude. So he's there. He's or at least I think he's new, because I don't remember him from season 1.
Right. Like, there's so much that happens in season 1. There may or may not have been a fishbowl on top of some sort of robot body.
Yeah.
Like, it would have just blended right in.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the first kind of big plot point thing that I want to mention is this film. This thing that Hazel slipped into 5's pocket as he saved him. They developed this film, and it is footage of the JFK assassination. And of course, on the footage, they see their father on the grassy knoll with an umbrella. And they're just like, oh God, it's our father. He's mixed up in this. I'm sure he's the one that somehow is mixed up in the assassination. He started the apocalypse. We need to stop our father.
I like this set piece of them trying to stop the JFK assassination. Yeah. I think it's an interesting choice for the setting and the immediate circumstances that they're put in. And I like that they pulled from real history. during that event, there was footage of this man standing holding an umbrella
Yeah.
in the audience. And people were like, who's this guy? It's a sunny day. Why is he holding an umbrella out? Who is he? Is this like when he opens an umbrella, is that like a signal to an assassin? And then they eventually like track the guy down, and like him opening an umbrella as soon as the president passes him is like some sort of metaphorical protest. I forget exactly what it is, but he's like, yeah, the umbrella was supposed to represent this thing. I was upset at the president. I wanted a quiet way to protest him and show him that. So I popped open my umbrella because I knew he would know what that meant.
That'll show him.
So it's a real... Yeah, it's a real odd thing.
Interesting.
From the history of this important event. Like kind of a side note. Like I don't think I heard about Umbrella Man until a couple years ago.
I don't think I knew
I like that they
about
took
him.
that. Yeah, they took that. They ran with it. They're like, let's build a story around this. I mean, we've got umbrellas already.
Here's something kind of jumping ahead that I think is really neat. Supposedly, back in season 1, we know that 5 has time traveled to 1963 previously and was mixed up in the JFK assassination, and that's when we see him in the portal in season 1 at the start, and they try and pull him in, and the thing goes wrong, and that's how he gets stuck in the body of like a 13-year-old or however old he's supposed to be. So we know he's been there before, supposedly. I don't necessarily remember that detail in season 1, but I was reading a recap thing, and they had said that is something that we knew in season 1. So this is kind of something they've been thinking about and playing with for a long time, and I love that. You know me, I'm a big time travel fan, so when stuff like that finally comes together, it's just like, chef's kiss. Mwah. This is great. I love it.
My favorite callback, it's from my favorite joke in season 1 where that portal opens up and they don't know what to do about the portal, and Klaus gets the fire extinguisher, but it won't shoot, so instead he just hurls it into the portal, and it shows up again, like it comes out of the portal that 5 enters, and it clonks Luther on the head, and he's out for a couple minutes.
It's so great. Yeah, I totally forgot about that moment in season 1, and listening back to our podcast, you had mentioned that was like your favorite thing of season 1, and I was just like, and that's the thing that hits Luther. That's great. I love it. It's wonderful. Wonderful stuff. So yeah, that is like their first step in trying to stop the apocalypse. Is like, looks like Father is around in 1963, and he's mixed up in this assassination. So 5 and Diego, who they have recently escaped from the local insane asylum, along with a new character named Lila. They are kind of figuring out what to do, and 5 and Diego are like, hey, let's go investigate Dad's company. We know he has an umbrella company that is kind of a front for whatever he does. And so they go investigate. They do some old-fashioned Scooby-Doo, let's split up, gang. And 5 runs into young Pogo. Young teenage monkey, yeah, or young child monkey.
I don't know how a monkey ages.
Yeah, who knows? And Diego ends up running into their father. He ends up sparring with him and gets stabbed. Looks like he's about to kick the bucket. But let's see here. Later, we know that Lila saved Diego because she followed them. She opens up about her parents being murdered, and that same night, we know that Lila also slips out to go visit her mom. You're like, wait a minute, her parents were just murdered. How can she go visit her mom? Well, her adopted mom is the handler. So we know that Lila is kind of a double agent. She's not who she says she is. Here, so.
But she does genuinely really like Diego.
Yeah, it is kind of one of those classic, like, well, you're my assignment, but the feelings were real, right? we had something special.
Yeah, I want to say I loved all the new love interests this season, and all the other new characters who are not love interests. Nobody had a crush on Elliot, but Elliot was still great.
Yeah.
Just making tuna suspended in Jell-O for the family to eat.
Good stuff. Did you want to mention anything else about Lila right now, or should we wait till we get into more of her stuff down the road?
Oh, we can get to her later. Cool. There's a lot to cover. I don't know how we're gonna.
There's a lot.
Thoroughly discuss 10 episodes in
this.
There
is a lot. I'm trying to gloss over as much as I can here.
Yeah. We got to get glossy.
So let's see. Blah blah blah. Allison's doing some sit-in protests. Vanya runs into the Swedes. She accidentally uses her powers. She doesn't know what's happening. That's when Five finds her and tries to get her memories back and be like, okay, so it turns out you're my sister. We're from the future. We avoided one apocalypse. Another one is about to happen in 10 days. We need your help. And stuff like that. So let's see. Where am I in my notes here? Yeah, so that's kind of about that. The next thing we find out, I guess, is some more information about Lila. We see a flash forward to 1993, in which Lila's parents are gunned down by someone. We don't see who it is. And the handler is also there on the scene, and she ends up finding a young child version of Lila in her Harry Potter closet, and she takes her, and she's like, everything's gonna be okay. And that's when she decides to raise Lila as an assassin for the Commission. So that's kind of who she is, and she is very, very good at her job. She is there in 1963 to kind of keep tabs on Diego by way of, she's more so there for Five, but is like doing that by like, maybe I can seduce Diego to get me into this thing here. So that's what she's
I'll marry into this family.
Exactly. Let's see. We see Luther and Vanya meet for the first time. They have a moment in the barn. Vanya and Sissy, who is the woman that she is mating with, they have a bit of a moment as well.
Yeah.
Looks like you have some thoughts on Sissy.
No, I love like I was saying, I love all the love interests. I love Lila. I loved Ray.
Yeah.
I was sad that
Ray's good.
Ray didn't get to stick around. It seems like we're definitely at least getting Sissy and Harlan back. Who knows Dave's fate in this timeline. Yeah. So happy to see Dave again. I liked Jill for that one scene where Ben gets to borrow Klaus's body and like just have a fun day
rolling
in the
around in the dirt.
Yeah. Sissy was my favorite though. And like you can tell from this first scene, well, the first thing you see is that Sissy accidentally hits Vanya with her car because Vanya's just fallen out of a portal and is panicked and is running out into the street. Sissy is a responsible driver. Don't let anyone tell you differently. But after that, the first time you see her is Vanya's like playing with Harlan. And then Sissy comes in with like a bag of groceries or something. And you can tell from the look on her face that Vanya is like so happy here for once. It's the happiest we've ever seen her. She looks at Sissy and she just glows. I'm like, oh, she's got a crush on this lady. I hope this doesn't end poorly. Because you look back at season 1, nobody's love interest ends well. None of them. Nobody like romantically comes out on top with anything in season 1. The best we get is Hazel and the donut woman Agnes.
Yeah.
And in the brief scene we get with him in the first episode of season 2, he's like, yeah, we got married. We had a good life. Cancer took her from her after about 20 years, so it wasn't as long as I wanted, but it was good. I'm like, oh, this is the best season 1 got for anybody's relationships. So I was terrified. I'm like, Vanya needs a win. Give her a win. And like when she's being more warm and more open with Sissy, I was so scared it was like going to turn on her. So I was so delighted when Sissy's like, I'm going to kiss you. I'm fully committed to this. I love you. Me also.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thank God, a requited crush.
Yeah. Good stuff. I liked Sissy. I liked Harlan especially. He was always one of those characters that's like there's something more to him. Like when we first saw him, I knew it was gonna be like, okay, they're gonna do something with him, but I don't know what yet. Which of course we find out later on. But yeah, I liked those characters. It wasn't just the love interest for Vanya too. Like I liked that. It's not just like, oh, she has a new crush on someone. It's she also really enjoys spending time with Harlan. And, like, they have a connection, right?
Yeah, I was very pleased to see her in a caretaking role as well, like helping out this little boy and like making a real friend for the first time in a while.
Yeah, good stuff. So let's see, skipping ahead a bit, Five and Diego try to confront their father for the first time at this party. However, Diego sees their mom? Question mark?
Yes!
Mom! Yeah, they see Grace. He tries to go talk with her. Apparently, she's on a date with their father, but it doesn't look like they are really, like, they're not married yet. We also know that from season 1, their mom is a robot, so we don't know if she is a robot now or not, or if something happens to her later, or...
Yeah. Oh, well, the vibe I got was she's a human woman now, and she's a robot, or somebody. She either becomes a robot, she's fully cyborgized. Although that robot we see doesn't look. Yeah, that robot we see doesn't really look biological in any form. Yeah. Who knows? Or she dies, and Reginald Hargreeves is like, I'm gonna make the children a robot mom in Grace's image. Yeah. And it also seems like she's like his date to this party, and they're partners, but it doesn't seem
not a romantic date.
Super romantic. Yeah. It seems more like they're just business partners and just companions to each other. Like they don't hold hands or anything.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Five is spying on their father, and he sees the majestic 12. Which we don't get much information on in this show. We get a little bit of just like, these guys are like the 1% of the 1%, like kind of running things in secret.
Well, I don't know if they're like shady government agents. Sure. They're not like rogue billionaires. Well, they're guys in suits who are kind of there to do a job.
Good point.
Which is also part of the kind of early 1960s JFK conspiracy window dressing that this whole season has.
So here we are on episode 5, which starts out with the origin of Pogo, and how he was just a normal old chimp. They were kind of teaching him some simple tasks and stuff, and he ends up being real smart, and so they send him out in the atmosphere because by golly, let's get him to the moon. But that doesn't work out well. Pogo's ship crashes, and the only way to save him is with this strange red syringe, this red liquid, which is, I believe, the same color stuff that their father saved Luther and Allison with when they were kids.
What I was wondering is, so Luther gets injured. Their dad's like, I don't know how else to fix this except to inject monkey blood in you. And I wondered if it was the opposite problem now. Like, this
guessing.
Yeah, this monkey needs blood. We only have human blood. So it's just this cycle, this blending of man and monkey.
Yeah. So that's kind of what gives Pogo his ability to speak and stuff like that. So there you go. But shortly after that is when we get the first full family meeting. All of the brothers and sisters kind of converge, and Klaus is like, "Hey, did we all get sexier? Yeah."
There's a bit later in the season where they're trying to stop Vanya from blowing up the FBI building, and like Allison can't do it and Diego can't do it, and Klaus is like, I'm not good for this. All I am is sexy trash.
So great. Like I love Klaus's character. I do think maybe in this season it was a little too much. I think maybe I enjoyed it all, but it was just like, if everyone else is sitting at like a 9, he's sitting at a 10. And not
very
not
heightened,
how
but
hot they are, but just like how like bombastic of these characters, right?
Yeah, but I think it's also clear that is his coping mechanism. He's kind of actively, he's actively sexy trash. This is sexy trash. This is anti-drug.
Like, I'm too sexy for my shirt.
Yeah. Right. He's barely wearing a shirt. If it is a shirt, it's only like 3 buttons are buttoned.
Exactly.
I love that his final act, not to skip ahead too much, but to this final act before they go back in the portal to get to 2019, everybody's ready. They're all standing around the briefcase holding hands, and Klaus is like, wait a second. And then he goes and gets a cowboy hat off of Sissy's porch.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So season 3 is just the season where Klaus has a cowboy hat.
Yep. This is also kind of around the time that 5 figures out that Lila is the handler's adopted daughter. And he ends up working out a deal with the handler that if 5 locates and kills the commission's board of directors, that the handler will give them one of those time-traveling briefcases to send them back to 2019 in the time that they should be. And so he takes them up on that deal, and we know that 5 goes out and kills them all, gets the briefcase, and then the string that is attached to this is it's only gonna work for 90 more minutes. So you have 90 minutes to gather everyone who's still out there scattered doing their own thing. And if you get everyone there in 90 minutes, you can get them back safely. And I think that goes through like episode 8, where they are still like trying to get everyone back together.
No,
it ends with the Backstreets back.
Yeah, that's which I was trying to tell you about the other week. I was using that as like a checkpoint. Like, have you gotten to the Backstreet Boys song
which
yet,
is
Kyle?
in episode 8, I believe.
That's not episode 8. That's earlier than that.
If it's earlier, then it's episode 7. But it's
Maybe.
Right there. Yeah. So I mean, they try to get everyone back, and that is just not working out. Let's see. Vanya tries escaping with Sissy and Harlan because they have their own little love affair stuff, but they get stopped by the cops and eventually given over to the FBI because too many people have seen her using her powers, and they're like, he must be a KGB spy with a name like Vanya.
Right. I appreciated that touch. That's something they stopped and thought about. Like, okay, in season 1, it's like we've got these kids from all these different moms all across the world. They've got a variety of cultural names. You send it back to 1963. Yes, they are going to be suspicious of the one named Vanya.
Indeed, yeah. So let's see. Meanwhile, Allison is using her powers against one of the Swedes. All of that stuff. They're still out there terrorizing them. This is when we get that the Backstreet Boys song, because this is the moment that Ben is possessing Klaus's body to have some time with Jill, but they need to go back because they only have 90 minutes to get there. It's just chaos. The whole thing is chaos.
Yeah, it's a neat conceit for an episode or two. Like, we have to collect everybody from around the city. It's 1963. We can't just call anybody.
Can't text them.
We have to get in our station wagons, drive around, and go find them, and then get everybody back here in this time limit. Like, it's great for an episode, but I think this is kind of what you were saying at the beginning of the episode, that they're really striving for this thing, and after it falls through, like, the narrative doesn't feel very different.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, like, after it all falls through, they're on episode 7 or 8, and it's like, well, they still can't even get the band back together to do a thing. They still don't know what causes the apocalypse or stuff like that yet, so it's just like, they haven't really done anything at the end of the day, but I've still really, really enjoyed my time. Right?
Yeah, and I liked seeing what everybody needed to do under that time crunch. Like, the Swedes killed Elliot. That was that eye for an eye deal.
Olga for Olga or something, right?
Yeah. It's some woman named Olga Foroga. Look her up in the phone book.
Here she is.
I love that.
Olga for Olga.
We're gonna come to your house. We're gonna murder.
It's almost like that scene in Taken where he's like, I have a very specific skill set. I will hunt you down and I will find you.
I love that. They've got like an hour or something left by the time Klaus gets back to Elliot's apartment that everybody's using as a home base. He's like, okay, everybody go out, get the rest of the siblings. We have to meet in this alley. And Diego's like, hold on, I've got something I need to do first. And you think he might be going to try and find Lila or something like that because he doesn't know yet. She's been working for the commission the whole time. No, what he has to go do is bury Elliot's body.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great touch. I was really touched by that. That was sweet. And unfortunately, Lila comes and like kidnaps him before he finishes. So I don't know if Elliot's body is just half lying in a ditch somewhere on the outskirts of Dallas.
Who knows?
He deserves better.
Yeah, he was a good character that I enjoyed, but he is like the unfortunate collateral of season 2. But yeah, so I really enjoyed the Backstreet scene. I loved how it started to where Klaus is trying to like disband the cult. It's not working. It doesn't happen. And then he tries just like sneaking out and just being like, what if I just leave and disappear? And there's that one guy that catches him and he's just like, give us like your last words of wisdom. And this whole cult is centered around song lyrics that he remembers and knows.
Right. The name of the cult is Destiny's Children.
Yeah. And so he just starts quoting lines from this Backstreet Boys song. And then the actual song comes in, and it's this great montage of all of this stuff happening, all of the characters just running around, trying to get back to this one point. And I think that scene is maybe the show at its best. Of like, this is what the Umbrella Academy really is all about. Just how dysfunctional this family is, and just how... just the stupid situations that they found themselves in. Because
I want to talk about... No, go ahead.
Last
finish.
thing I was going to say is just like Klaus alone, the fact that he's trying to disband this cult and it's not working, and yet Ben is possessing Klaus's body, and he's like trying to like stay in there, but Klaus is fighting it, and so they just look crazy, and they're like, and it's just this like wild. He just looks like this crazy man just running around doing all sorts of stuff, and immediately once he gets to the alley, he throws up a bathtub's worth of stuff. Oh my god.
And like we see he's throwing up Ben, like Ben's entire body, but that's like our visualization of his ghost powers, and Ben was like possessing his body. All like Luther and 5C is he just collapses on the ground and vomits and lies there.
And it's just like that scene is such a perfect snapshot of, it's like, do you want to know what this show is about? Here, watch this one scene, and then you'll understand everything. So it's good.
This show is very good at this chaos energy. Yeah. I want to talk about the needle drops in this season.
Go for it.
This is something season 1 was full of, but I felt like it was a little bit more quantity over quality. Like no individual needle drop was extremely cool to me. It was just a lot of them that were pretty cool. And I wish they would have been more deliberately chosen each time. And season 2, I think, is a little bit better at this. I was kind of hoping that when they went back in time that they would stick to period music and we'd see what they would do out of just Buddy Holly songs or something like that, like only stuff from 1963 and before. But no, it's from all eras, all over the place.
Yeah.
Which I guess I kind of admire that they've got a theme that they're sticking with from season 1, and the theme is everything. Yeah. Like they don't put restraints on it. They kind of go with anything that they want. But the Backstreet Boys one, I think, was amazing. That one was really well timed. That one was
absolutely my favorite.
And I love in like the second to last episode where young 5 and old 5 are fighting each other. They completely nail it. It's Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself.
Yeah. They in season 2, I think what they did, because season 1, I remember they just went hard all the time when there's a song playing. It's a very recognizable one, or it has that same type of energy. I think this balances it out some, where there are songs in the background that are more subdued. They're more meant to be background moody pieces. But one thing I noticed, because I had the subtitles on, because I watch all of my stuff with subtitles on, and it wouldn't be like the name of this song and the artist. Sometimes the like joke is in the name of the song and not the song itself, and they still have it like they still are just like, oh, this is perfect because the song's name is exactly what's happening like on the screen. They're like dancing with myself, right? Or it's just like some creative way to be like, oh, that's exactly what this character is feeling or doing. But they're more subdued songs, so when ones like the Backstreet Boys ones do hit, it's just like, oh, this is a great moment.
Yeah, there were some really well done ones this season, and I also loved, this one is actually diegetic to the scene. It's when Allison and Klaus and Vanya are hanging out in the hair salon where Allison works off hours.
Dancing scene.
Yeah, like she turns on the radio and she's like, oh, I love this song. So that one's actually in the world of the show. It's Twisting the Night Away, I think. And it's just the three of them dancing. And the scene goes on for like 2 minutes. It goes on a lot longer than I thought I would, which was delightful. Like, I'm glad this wasn't just like kind of a fun gag hit. It's like a whole scene that you live in. And these three characters who've had it really rough have like come back together. They're reconnecting and they're just having a really fun time. Just doing these silly coordinated dances.
It's full on footloose, right? Where or just those like 80s style movies about teenagers or young adults, and they have that like
Breakfast Club, yeah.
They have the like dance scene that goes on for way too long, and it's just this like odd
Mac and
me.
Me.
This odd montage of stuff is like they're having fun and they're dancing, but maybe this is dramatized in a way that this isn't actually what they're doing. But maybe it is, right? So good stuff. It was fun.
Another moment I really enjoyed this season is when Klaus gets back to town after being in San Francisco or wherever. He goes to the mansion that his cult lives in, ? And he's just hanging out in the pool. He's like lying around on a pool floaty. And Allison comes over. I forget how she even finds this place, but she goes there and she sees him in the pool. And this is the first family member that they have seen after being stuck in the 60s. And she's so excited to see him that she like kicks off her shoes and jumps into the pool to swim over to him and hug him there. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And like those two didn't have like a particular dynamic between them in season 1, but I like that they didn't need one. Like they're still all siblings to each other, and they're still lost in the past after narrowly escaping an apocalypse. It's hard times, and this is the first time they see something familiar. That was such a pure, joyous moment.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so let's see. Where does that leave us with the plot? Backstreet's back. 90 minutes. It doesn't happen. Nothing works. So you mentioned that Lila ends up kidnapping Diego and trying to recruit him into the commission.
I think this subplot has my favorite joke in season 2, where Diego has to sit down and watch a orientation training film to join the commission. Yeah. And it's this film reel that's talking about all the perks. And it's this text that flashes on screen that says, free coffee, weekly donuts. And there's a little asterisk next to the donuts. And at the bottom it says, fees apply.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's the perfect kind of like 60s style orientation video that is like a great counterpart to the Dharma Initiative stuff that we see in Lost, right? Where like the Dharma Initiative stuff is just so creepy and mysterious, and this is just so chipper and just like, well, top of the morning to you.
There's an episode of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, that's just 11 minutes of the employee orientation training film strip for the law office that Harvey Birdman works at. I
love that you know that.
I forget what the episode's called. It's amazing. So if you like this type of gag, there's a whole 11 minutes of quirky old film strip training film.
That's wonderful. So yeah, Diego is being recruited, but he's not really interested. During the middle of that video, he kind of gets up and leaves because the teacher is sound asleep. She's conked out, and he finds his way into this room that is like the ultimate switchboard. I forget what they call it.
Yeah,
but it is basically this like observing station where they can watch cameras and video feeds of different time periods and stuff. And so he uses it to watch the assassination of JFK a day before it happens or so. I guess like an hour or so before it happens. And he sees that it is Vanya again, kind of.
Which, in another, if it wasn't handled as well, this would feel like continually punching down at the character. Yeah. But I think because everybody in the cast is aware of how preposterous it is, like, oh, God, Vanya again? now what are we going to do to stop her? Like, it's kind of silly. All of this is something I really appreciated about this season. Even if the larger scope of the problem was very troubling, very tense, very dangerous, a lot of these individual steps along the way to solve the problem were like more lighthearted, more goofy.
And
like of course,
I think it's also more they're more accepting of her, and they're not just like trying to brush her off as like, oh well, you were never really a part of us, because in this scene it's not that Vanya necessarily causes the apocalypse, but it's it's JFK in his car going down the street right before he's about to get assassinated in the way we know. And in the background in the FBI building, we see Vanya, like, her powers explode, and that causes JFK to take a different route in his car. So JFK is alive. That messed up the timeline. Vanya has now exposed herself. So eventually the apocalypse started because of that, but it's not her necessarily being mad and being like, I will blow up the moon, haha.
Yeah, like she's being tortured by these FBI agents, so it's trauma from that. But I was very grateful that the rest of the family learned their lesson.
Yeah, because it's
they
also, sorry, not to interrupt you, but they're being nicer to her. It's not just how do we stop Vanya, it's how do we save her.
Yes. Yeah, I think that they learned their lesson from season 1, and even if they don't spell it out so much, I think it was a really good choice to have all of them separated for so long, landing here in the 1960s at various times, because they've had to spend so much time alone. And, they don't need to say how much that's affected them, how much that makes them value the rest of their siblings that much more. Like, you can see it in all these little moments. Yeah. You can tell that's definitely playing into it. And I love that it's ultimately Ben that gets to save her. Because, like, we've only ever seen Ben interact with Klaus, because Ben is dead and Klaus can talk to ghosts. But, like, when Ben is in Klaus's body for a little bit before Klaus tears him out, you see him just, like, look real fondly at Diego, like, I miss talking to you. Or he can kind of leave his body and he goes inside Vanya's body, and they've got, like, a very, very sweet, touching moment where he kind of gives her the advice and the pep talk she needs to kind of break out of this power state that she's in and kind of get her powers under control. And he's like, well, this has taken everything that I am, so I'm going to die now, but that's okay. Like, I could have died when I was 13, and I've gotten to stick around and do all the rest of this stuff. It's gravy. It's been fun. Can I have a hug before I die?
His character, I think, had the most heartbreaking arc, this whole thing, because it is one of those things that it you see it very subtly. You see it kind of shoved to the background of like, hey, I'm here with you all, but Klaus also doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And so he, like, because there's a moment that Klaus has with Allison, and I think she asks him if Ben is there with them for some reason, and he's like, no, ghosts can't time travel. And then it cuts to him, and he's like, oh, come on, like, I'm right here.
Right. Yeah, the rest of the family, they don't know any better, so they take him at his word.
Yeah. And at the, like, first family reunion meeting thing, when Klaus is like, man, did we get sexier or what? There's a moment where I think he's sitting there, or it might be in the salon when he's with Vanya and Allison, when it just cuts to Ben, and he's just like, I've missed you guys. Like, I like hanging out with you guys, even though no one knows he's there, and like he can just sit there and watch them, But he like, no one knows he's there. He keeps getting shoved to the side, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Ben, he's so good. I like him. I just want to give him a
very good.
pat on the top of his head. Be like, you're a good boy, Ben.
Just ruffle his hair and take him out for ice cream. And we still don't know how he died. I wonder what that reveal's eventually going to be.
Didn't we kind of see that in season 1? There was a flashback with like a bank robbery that went wrong.
I think whatever it is happens off screen. All I know is that I listened to that episode we did on season 1, and I said that we don't get to see how he dies. And I trust the Melissa from last March.
I will too then. That he's a smart one.
Right.
But yeah, so I think Ben having his moment to save Vanya, I think is a great moment.
Yeah.
And then he kind of evaporates there, and that's it for Ben. Vanya is saved. She reunites with Klaus and Diego and Allison, and that's kind of that brings us into like the final 2 episodes ish. I don't have any more notes written down because I didn't get to them. But yeah. So I'm the next big thing I can think of is just the confrontation on the farm. But I'm wondering if I'm trying to remember if there's something before.
Another one of my favorite moments this season. Vanya's like, I know we are wanted criminals because they think we had something to do with assassinating the president. I have to go get Sissy and Harlan. I'm taking off whether you guys are with me or not. And it seems like the rest of the family's like, no, kind of understandably, they're like, no, we are wanted criminals. Our faces are everywhere. We're going to stay here. Like, we don't think you should go, and we're not going with you. So you see Vanya get in the station wagon outside, and then like Klaus gets in.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
then everybody
a great
else
moment.
Gets in.
Yeah.
God, Luther has to ride in the trunk.
The whole card,
beautiful.
Like it's the thing where like one of them gets in, and you're like, oh, like they came, good for them that there's someone else, and then 2 more of them show up, and then 5 finally comes, and it's like, oh yeah, 5 is with them too, and he
has to sit in the front seat because he's the oldest,
even though he looks the youngest.
Klaus does not get out of the front seat and then open the door to the back seat. He climbs over the top of the
It's so him. It's so him.
His physical acting is outstanding.
And then you think they're about to go, and you completely, for that split second, you completely forget about Luther because it's such a touching moment. And you're like, oh, they're all there.
Yeah.
And then he walks up and he opens up the trunk, he gets in, and the whole thing just goes down like a foot. and he's just like, I don't want to hear any fat jokes. It's great.
I love that big rowdy family car trip
in a station
so
wagon.
Happy this is set in a station wagon. I'm so happy they didn't have that scene as part of a contemporary timeline, because just all of them piling into a Ford Escape does not have the same impact.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, so they do that. So they go to the farm from there, and this is kind of where the final confrontation happens. One thing I don't think we've mentioned yet is that at one point in the story, Harlan goes missing. And he knows that there's tension in the house and stuff like that. And I feel like he just wants to go off and do something else. He's not trying to kill himself, but he ends up at the bottom of a lake, and he has drowned, and Vanya finds him and she saves him, but in the act of saving him, unbeknownst to her, she kind of transfers some of her power into Harlan. And when Vanya is in the FBI and they're torturing her, it's kind of setting off her powers. And because some of her powers are also in Harlan, there's this like weird connection there that because her powers are going off, his powers are then going off. And it's creating this like weird vortex storm kind of thing out on the farm. And apparently that is what is causing the apocalypse. How to speak. So they go to try and calm Harlan down. Meanwhile, the handler shows up with Lila. And I think it's Five and Diego that go out to talk to them, and it's like the start of a football game where they're like, okay, captain, shake hands. It's not exactly that, but that's what it made me think of. And they're all like, oh yeah, well, who's gonna stop us? You and what army? They're like, this army. And then there's this crazy scene where she snaps her fingers and all of these commission agents are there with machine guns and briefcases. And it's a pretty cool scene. It's just like, but like they spared no expense to make this scene look great.
Yeah, and it's the equivalent of a bunch of other Hazel and Cha-Chas. Yeah. And I liked seeing, even if those characters aren't really around this season, I did miss them. They were maybe my favorite part of season 1. I'd like that the equivalent of that role is still out there. So it's just all these other field agents. And you know from season 1 that these are they're just employees. Like they just clock in, clock out. They're there to do the job.
And accounting. Right. He's there with a machine gun.
Right, and part of the job is that they carry machine guns and murder people, but they are just like, the coffee stains on their shirt. Like, oh, I have to go to a conference.
I'm missing the weekly donuts for this?
I paid for those weekly donuts.
Those free weekly donuts that I paid for.
Asterisk, yes.
Yeah, so it's good. So that they have that moment, and that's kind of when the fight breaks out, and things are going crazy. Vanya starts using her powers. Diego and Five are running to get undercover. Vanya eventually goes out there and she does like this big shockwave thing, which knocks out a bunch of people. That scene looked fantastic. That was amazing. And then we learn something about Lila that we probably could have figured out if we put the clues together. There was a fight scene between
some degree,
her and Five where it's like, it seems like she's also kind of blinking to other locations and stuff like that. But like we don't see that like blue glow. And so it just seems like maybe she's just a ninja, right? And she's somehow...
Believable.
Yeah. But her whole shtick is that she can, I guess, mimic other people's powers. And so she also floats up in the air and mimics Vanya's powers, and she does a second blast of this energy. And again, they spare no expense to make this stuff look fantastic, because in both of those blasts, it's this like high aerial shot, and you see Steve from accounting, get knocked back, Steve and all of his accountants and who knows what, and they're just ragdolled back. And I'm assuming Vanya killed most of them in that first blast, but then when Lila does hers, the bodies move again, and they're just ragdolled. I'm just like, they animated that. Like, I was not expecting them to go into that much detail. Like, I was expecting to be like, it's a Netflix show. They kind of ran out of money. Who knows? But no, it looked great.
They've got money enough for all of that and every one of the handlers' elaborate outfits.
Exactly. yeah, and so then more fighting. Yeah, we do see Lila getting to use all the different people's powers. Allison tries using her rumor powers, but Lila finishes her sentence, and it works on Allison. That was a scary scene. That was intense. But it kind of culminates in the barn, and Lila ends up being surrounded by all of the Umbrella Academy, and they're trying to calm her down and stop her and figure out a way to bring her in. And they're also trying to convince her, like, hey, do you really know who your mother is? Like, she's the handler. Like, she's not a good person. Like, she's obviously using you to do all of this stuff. And then they start to give her more examples of stuff, and she's just like, no, like, this can't be true. And they're all like, but you've felt it, right? Like, you've felt it the entire time. I don't know what is up with my stream deck here. It is freezing. That is not what we want. Go back to that one. Okay. Yeah. So like the handler steps in with a machine gun and basically kills most of the Umbrella Academy right then and there, shoots them all down. And 5 uses his powers to reverse time.
Yeah.
Which we haven't really seen him do. We've seen him open up portals to time travel. So we know he has like time travel based powers, but I don't think we've seen him use his powers in this manner before.
Yeah, it's like when Doctor Strange uses the time stone and just sort of
Dormammu, I am here.
I've come to bargain. Or it's like when he reverses the apple. I ate the apple and now there's a full apple here. Like, all I need to do is go back like 10 seconds.
Yeah. But he does that for like the whole barn, where he reverses time, and that gives him enough time to slip to the side, so that when the handler comes in, he's right there to stop her. And that's when things are kind of cemented, that the handler never really loved Lila, and in fact, they do the whole thing of like, actually, it was 5 that killed her that killed Lila's parents, but it was under the handler's orders. Like, he didn't know what he was doing, nor did he know that she was there at the scene in her Harry Potter cupboard and stuff like that. So like, he didn't know all of this stuff happened, but it was really the handler. And then right at that moment, the last remaining Swede brother steps in with one more machine gun and kills the handler. For real this time, we think. Again, we don't know, because they did this at the end of season 1. Where
for real this time, for right now, for the immediate future, until we hear otherwise.
Exactly. And they kind of let the Swede go. He's distraught from having one of his brothers blown up and having killed one of his brothers himself, from Allison using her powers on him. So he's just like, enough, I'm gonna walk away. And they're like, that's fine with us, see ya.
And then he ends up joining Klaus's cult, still driving around in their multicolored van,
which is great. But yeah, so then the I guess backing up a little bit, though, we do see a moment in the barn where the handler is confronting Harlan, who's still in the midst of using his powers and stuff. Yeah. And she is like, hey, I can take care of you. Like, I know what it's like to be with people like you, to care for people like you. I understand you. And whether she's kind of talking about Lila or not is not necessarily clear, but we know it's not for a great purpose, right? That she's just like,
Yeah.
Come with me and I will use you, but you won't know that, right?
Yeah. I think it's a neat parallel that she's also her own kind of Reginald Hargreaves.
Yeah.
She's like, let's see how many powerful children I can collect. Exactly. And I like that they used finally this kind of lingering thing from like the first 10 minutes of the very first episode. I forget exactly how many children it's supposed to be.
I think that there was like 40 something, like 45.
Yeah, there was that.
I'm not sure.
Weird supernatural event where across the world, X amount of babies were just suddenly born. And Reginald Hargreaves tries to get as many as he can, and he gets 7. But they don't tell you what are the lives of the rest of those kids. Like, and this isn't something that the actual Umbrella Academy thinks about.
Yeah, no.
Like, they don't wonder if there's more of them out there. And you also wonder, how much did their dad tell them? Did he say, oh, yeah, there were only 7 of you? Because he probably doesn't want to admit, well, there were 50 and I could only get 7.
Yeah.
Like, they don't seem to wonder about the other kids in their, very special generation. So I was glad to see Lila's one of them. And now this is something they're thinking about. And now she's got this incredible power where she can kind of mimic everybody else. Like, who are these other kids out there? What are their powers?
But the way things wrap up with Harlan, he stays in that time period, right?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. Like, again, this is kind of a time travel show. So this is stuff you have to think about now. So if they do the thing where, and we'll get more into this in just a sec, but if they do the thing with where everything they did in the 1960s then erased everything they did previously, which erased the original apocalypse. I know this is confusing, but if it erased that original apocalypse, that might be why the team is now finding the Sparrow Academy in there. But it could also mean that Harlan is now out in the world as an adult with superpowers out there.
Harlan is president.
Right? Yeah, who knows? Also, did Raymond Chestnut die? He didn't die.
No, he's still out there.
Again, he can be out there. He would be in his 60s or 70s by this time.
Yeah, all these characters are out there, and we don't know, according to this, how much they've mucked about in the timeline. Maybe Dave is still alive. Maybe Dave escaped death after all of these butterfly effects.
We don't know, because, we know he did join the military. But maybe he got a different position. Maybe he never made it to Vietnam. Who knows? So there's all sorts of stuff in ways that some of these characters could come back and affect what's going to happen in season 3. We don't know. But yeah, so things wrap up at the farm. Since all of the commission agents are pretty much dead, they have their choice of briefcases to get themselves back to 2019. We see Diego has a secret handshake with the one dude, I forget his name. Which, when did they make that up? I don't know.
Right! It's so elaborate. It comes out of nowhere. You're right. Those characters interacted before,
for 2 minutes.
Under duress. When did they have time to do this?
Ridiculous. It's great.
There's another plot point that's come up that we haven't touched on yet, which is that we do find out their dad is an alien.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna get to that when we start talking about season 3 and stuff like that, because they make it back to 2019. And they think everything is normal. It's the day or so after the original apocalypse, and obviously the apocalypse didn't happen because everything is still there. And they walk in their mansion, and they're like, "Oh, I missed this. Let's get a drink." And the mansion seems empty, which is strange. Okay. Then their father shows up, and they see a painting of Ben over the mantelpiece, which wasn't there before. And they're just like, this is strange.
Do you remember, was there a painting of somebody else? Was there something in that place in season
I
1?
don't remember. I'm assuming
I couldn't
it was
either.
a painting of someone else.
Yeah.
Maybe of their mom. Who knows?
Yeah, there must have been something up there.
But it is something that they're like, that wasn't there before. This is strange.
You didn't commission oil portraits of us.
Or maybe it was that there was just nothing there before, and they've noticed, like, why are there paintings of us here on the wall, or at least of Ben? And that is when they get introduced to the Sparrow Academy, led by emo-haired Ben, with like the bangs covering half of his face.
Right, and it's like the same hair that he's had the whole time, just styled differently. Instead of swoop back, it's swooped forward.
Which is oddly fitting, considering the Umbrella Academy is created by Gerard Way. So, but yeah, like so, all right. First big thing we need to talk about is, yes, their dad is an alien? What the fuck?
No, well, we suspected this already, because we've got that one mysterious flashback in season 1 where he's like talking to a woman that looks like it might have been his wife at one point, and there's like all these rockets taking off in the background out the window.
We know he's interested in rocket technology and getting to the moon.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly why. After 2 seasons, their father is still just a complete enigma. And I to be honest, I think that's one of my favorite things with the show. Did you ever see a show called 6 Feet Under on HBO?
I've seen some of it. I know the premise.
Yeah, so it's about a family that runs a funeral home. And they did something in season 1 of that show that I loved, and I wish they did more of, but they dropped it after season 1, and I was just like, that was the best part. So in season 1, the father of that family dies, and part of their grieving process is like going through all of his belongings and stuff like that, and they learn so much more about their father, of just like, he had a secret life that we didn't know about. He had like a secret room at this bar upstairs, like it was an office, and he slept there some times. And I liked that mystery a lot of just like, there is someone we know and love that we think we know, but it just turns out to be a complete enigma. So I like that this show is keeping that up, that we still don't know shit about their father. He's an alien?
Yeah.
He's into rocket technology? He time travels? What is going on? And we don't know why or what he's up to.
Yeah.
Or, like, who the rest of these Majestic 12 are. Are they still around?
Yeah, like I also wonder how much of that is going to continue on as part of the narrative's mythology, or if that was just something they included for the set piece that season 2 takes place in. And now that we're out of 1963, its time is kind of done.
But yeah, I mean, that starts to beg the question, if we know their father was working to set up all of these weird things and coincidences, has he created other timelines? Is the 2019 that they return to a different timeline? Because it looks like it is, because Ben is still alive in this one, and he's a part of the Sparrow Academy, which is completely different from the Umbrella Academy.
It's funny that it's Umbrella and Sparrow because they're not related, nor are they complete opposites.
Right, it's not like the Top Hat Academy where it's like, okay, I can see it's like a thing to protect your hat.
The Monocle Academy.
Right, yeah.
The Delicate White Driving Gloves Academy.
But like that is the thing of like, is this the original timeline? Just things are different now, and are those, because we only got to see the silhouettes of the children in the Sparrow Academy besides Ben. Are these the kids we know? Is this Klaus and Vanya and all that, or is it other kids from the like
right and like
things there?
Yeah, and like the silhouettes, it's difficult to make out anything about them. Also, including
edgier.
are these also 30-year-olds? Like you can't even get a good sense of age. Are we like in another generation of teens?
I'm thinking they're teens just because of how emo Ben's hair was. No 30-year-old is gonna have the like emo, hair to one side unless they're in a band named My Chemical Romance or something, right?
Ben also has this really patchy little mustache. Maybe this is a timeline where the same event happened, but instead of happening in 89, it happened in like 97. Yeah. So it's the same, but everybody's just younger.
It could be. It could be. I mean, we really don't know. And like we said, Harlan is out there somewhere.
Yeah,
if this
making birds float.
If this is a new timeline, does that mean there's another version of the Commission out there too?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it's starting to be like,
this time it's a hamster in a wheel on top of a robot body.
Look, to be honest, I wouldn't put it past them.
Just an assortment of pets, an entire snake terrarium on top of a robot body.
Instead of like a snake terrarium, it's just like a bonsai looking tree with the snake like dangling on it.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool.
My head's a tree with a snake on it.
But is Pogo still alive in this? Because it looks like the stuff that happened in season 1 now hasn't happened per se. We don't know. There's a lot
and
of
we
questions.
don't know. Yeah, and like we don't know what happened to Grace.
Yeah,
so we don't know
that.
now if that thing's we don't know now if that thing still happened or did not happen. One thing I think is a launching point for season 3 is we have that flashback at the beginning of the last episode, I think, or maybe the episode before, where it's the funeral for Ben after he's died. And their dad's giving this eulogy and he says, the Umbrella Academy has failed. I think that does give some credence to wondering, is he orchestrating various timelines? Is he not? Is he making things, or at least knowing that? Or does he at least know that there are different timelines and he's hopping around like, okay, these kids didn't work. Where can I get to some kids that did work?
Yeah, let me see. Umbrella Academy TV. Here we go. Run this on 43 women around the world gave birth. So that's at least 43 children. We don't know if some of them were twins or triplets or stuff like that. The thought that just popped into my mind was, like, what if, and what made me go off on this? Somehow I was like the number 7, because there's 7 of them, right?
Yes.
So I was like, okay, if there's 7 of the 40-something, 42, what if there's 7 different experiments, or like, and there's each like a group of 7 of them planted in different timelines or time periods, and
one control kid out there somewhere that Hargreeves didn't go after.
Who knows? I really don't know where the show is gonna go, because since we did episode 1, I guess since we covered season 1 on the review show, I went back and I read the comics of Umbrella Academy. They are available on Comixology Unlimited, but there's only like 12 issues plus 3 side stories. It's not much.
Yeah, this is what I've heard. The original comics are fairly short and very different.
Yes. The first kind of 6 issues or so, I think, are of the premise, or they match up to season 1 of the show. See, how many issues are there? Number of issues, 24. So I think September 2013. Okay, so yeah, it looks like since this has gotten big, they've gone back to write more Umbrella Academy stories. Starting in October 3rd, 2018 to the present. So they're still making them. They're still making comics. But so I haven't read those new ones, but I've read the ones from 2007 to 2013. And yeah, I think the show does an incredible job of like expanding on that. But yeah, like there's not much else that they can borrow from in terms of like source material, unless they've done the thing of like, hey, Gerard, like if you had to make new comics, what would you do with these things? And he's sitting there, in his best George R.R. Martin's like, well, it's gonna play out like this, right? So they might be doing something like that. I don't know. There is, from what I remember, there is no such thing as the Sparrow Academy in the comics. I literally have no idea what is gonna happen in season 3.
Right, and at the end of season 1, you could not guess that they would all be sent back to 1963.
Yeah, because that's also not in the comics.
Right, and like there's, you mentioned that that's something that Older 5 mentions as part of his time travel commission work, is that he has just come from like a mission in the year JFK was assassinated. Yeah. Outside of that reference that I didn't remember, there's no setup for next season's going to be time travel. Next season, we're all stuck several decades in the past.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I would like to see them in a more contemporary time. I don't necessarily want to see them fight off another apocalypse, but I would like to see them tackle something else. Like let's actually start unraveling this mystery with Father. I guess, you know what, the Majestic 12 didn't make it because that's in the scene where we find out he's an alien and he kills them all.
Yeah. Just gobbles them
up. Yeah. So the Majestic 12 is no longer around, but are there other aliens on this planet? We don't know. What are those rocket ships for? What were they for? Were those the other aliens taking off? I don't know. What was he studying?
Next season could be anything.
What was he studying on the dark side of the moon?
Moon stuff.
Moon rocks. Rock facts.
Season 3 is all rock facts. One thing I am excited for them to get to in season 3, if, this still exists there in the timeline, Allison spent this whole time trying to get back to her daughter.
Yeah.
It's one of the background things for her in season 1. She's just been through a separation or a divorce, and her daughter's living with her estranged husband. She doesn't really get to see her because her husband's like, your superpower is scary, and I don't know if I want you around our child. And she's trying to rehabilitate herself and become a better, more stable mom. And she, like, there's a scene where Luther has to call her daughter and talk for her because Vanya's just slit her throat and Allison can't speak for herself. So she's never gotten to interact with the daughter that we've seen. And in season 2, it's still always in the back of her mind. You can tell, like, even though she's adjusting to life in 1963. She's got a wonderful marriage to Ray. She's still thinking about her daughter Claire out there somewhere. And when they get back to 2019, that's the first thing she wants to do. Are we finally going to get there?
Is her daughter in the Sparrow Academy?
We don't know.
There's so many.
Those shadows could be
questions,
anybody.
yeah.
It could just be a bunch of furniture stacked up that looks like six
A bunch
kids.
of robots. They're all vacuums.
It's just like a mop.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate twist. It's just Ben. It's an academy of only Ben. That's why he gets a painting.
Actually, that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, those are just like tackle dummies up there. Brooding down at you from the second floor. Those aren't other children.
I'm even thinking of what if it's just 7 Bens? And they're all different.
I love it.
Like one of
7
them is
Bens.
a jock, one of them is a nerd, one's the emo kid, one is a trans character, so she's a girl. Like that would be amazing.
These all the other powers. You've got like, muscle Ben, knife wielding Ben.
Man, think of the action figures.
Oh my god, all the Bens.
Arctic Adventure Ben. Oh man, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that wraps me up on thoughts.
Yeah.
On this season. I don't know. Do you have any kind of final words for that one before we get into?
No, I just had a good time.
Good.
I was glad to have it.
Good.
I think the show really grew a lot from season 1.
Indeed. I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the one weird thing for me is that it didn't really go anywhere for the first 7-8 episodes ish.
Yeah.
They couldn't even really get the band back together until then. But yeah, it's still paced incredibly well. I love the characters. One idea I had was it kind of would have been cool if they jumped straight to 5 gets there in 1963, runs into the handler, or finds some way to contact her. She comes and they immediately start that deal. You have 90 minutes to find everyone, and that happens by the end of episode 2 or 3, and so they spend the rest of the season just in that 90 minutes replaying it from different perspectives to get them back there. That kind of would have been neat, this big kind of Rashomon thing of I think that kind of would have been neat.
This show would be really well suited to try something like that.
But we got a lot more than that in this season, and I think I was pleased overall.
Yeah.
So good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Good.
I don't know if I have very many new recommendations from what we recommended in episode 50 of the review show. But I wanted to know if you had some.
This is something I have brought up a lot since we first watched The Umbrella Academy, so it's not new to the general audience member, but Doom Patrol... Yes. Can't forget about Doom Patrol. This is a show I feel like I talk about a lot for having only seen 3 episodes of it. I'm going to finish it. I have HBO Max access now. The only thing is that HBO Max is not on the 2 smart TV devices I have. So if I want to watch it, I have to watch it within my browser on my laptop.
Apparently, Warner Brothers has just this past 2 days have gone through a bunch of restructuring. I think over 500 people got laid off. A bunch of DC Comics people were affected and stuff like this. This was a massacre. But from what I understand, I think the person who was kind of in charge of HBO Max got fired or stuff like that. Like, they haven't been very happy with the way things have rolled out. Like, they didn't really have an original show that they launched with. They had season 2 of Doom Patrol, and that's really good, but also a lot of people didn't have DC Universe, so they didn't see season 1. So it was just like, that's not really drawing people. The best things that I'm hearing people say is like, well, they have like all the Cartoon Network back catalog.
Yeah.
And this new
that's very valuable.
Harley Quinn cartoon is on there too, and that's been phenomenal. So apparently they're hoping to get someone new in there to speed things up and be like, okay, let's get some original content on there.
Well, I would have been watching plenty of it if it just came on Roku or my Fire TV. Like, it came on everything else but the 2 devices I have.
Yeah, and that was a big thing of like, the most popular devices you're not on. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it's changed since I looked at this like 2 weeks ago. It might be on there now, and
still.
There's just not like, beans.
It's not, yeah. I don't know. But
but anyway, Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is good.
Go check out.
I'll finish it eventually.
Go check out the Doom Patrol comics as well. This is all of the stuff that we mentioned in the season 1 coverage. Go watch Doom Patrol or read some of the comics. Gerard Way, who wrote the original comics for Umbrella Academy, also wrote some more recent Doom Patrol comics. So go check those out as well. Melissa, last time you recommended Venture Brothers, which I think is a great recommendation if you liked this show. And we have now covered the entirety of the Venture Brothers on the review show, or at least all of the stuff that is currently out. I know they're still making that show. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic show. I don't know what numbers of the review show those are at the top of my head, but we have 4 different episodes
recent,
of those.
Yeah, and I think we did them in January, February, and March, if that helps.
Okay, yeah, it's like 3 or 4.
So they're from this year.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Go check that stuff out. I think one more I want to throw in the mix that I think maybe the Sparrow Academy kind of reminded me of. There's another comic called Deadly Class. It also got a 1-season show on Sci-Fi. It was canceled after that, so they didn't get to continue the show. But Deadly Class is a comic about a school that trains up like these child assassins and stuff. It seems maybe less silly than what this is, but if you're kind of into that whole like there's a special academy where they train up students, then you might want to check that one out too. So
yeah,
good stuff. That almost wraps us up. I don't know what we're going to be covering next on this show since we do this sporadically, but don't forget to check out our Patreon exclusive Reactor Core episodes. Those are all at the $3 tier on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/thewhatnots. That's about it. Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to stay up to date with our shows, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe. Tell your soul, tell a friend. Find your local Sparrow Academy and let them know. Steal their phones and subscribe them. Yeah. I think we're still sitting at 82 subscribers on YouTube, so come help us out. Come check us out and subscribe to our YouTube. We are hoping to get to 100 subscribers. That would be fantastic. But that's it. We're done. That's the end of our coverage for season 2 of Umbrella Academy. I guess we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed that one. Leave a comment down below if you guys are excited for Season 3 of Umbrella Academy and something you guys might like to see in Season 3. And in the meantime, go subscribe to our channel. It's right up there in that corner. Go hit that button. And then watch one of our other videos right down here in this corner, because we got plenty of podcasts for you to check out. But I guess that is it for now. So until next time, sayonara.